Good evening, friends. This is Altazar, and we're going to be starting the Relationship Compatibility Astrology presentation in just a moment as we wait for people to come on and or discover that this is happening. And I welcome you all, especially new folks, friends from Naropa or clients I've had through Unity of Boulder or others from my workshops around the country. So it's going to be an interesting and exciting presentation, especially for those of you who have never looked at astrology on this deeper level of how and why you may be compatible with certain people and not others. And I should point out that astrology is not meant to become a tool of prejudice in terms of certain signs that may be indicated you'll have more challenge with. I say challenge, sometimes tension. Some of the most illustrious relationships and long-lasting marriages are with people who have quite contrasting energies. So this presentation is really about giving you an understanding of the energetics of people and relationships, so that ultimately love is about being able to accept people as they are and understand them better, so that we don't work too hard at trying to change them, and as well we start to embrace being more honest ourselves in expressing who we are. And that's another basis for why people get into astrology, to better understand who they are and to more honestly communicate what they're about in this life. So I think our time is just about to start here. I'll check our camera, and I'll be doing so periodically to make sure that everything is still functional. So again, welcome for those who may have just arrived, and again for those who've been here to start. And those others may come in over the next hour, and they're welcome too. We'll be looking at different components and attributes of relationship compatibility astrology, which people can apply and learn from in various segments. So first of all, I'd like to mention that astrology is an ancient study that has been around for well over 5,000 years. So what many may know from the media or magazines generally is entertainment and broad sweeping characterizations of various signs. So up here we have this map, this graph, which is a fundamental graph to use if you want to learn the basics of relationship astrology. So you're welcome to copy this or try to get a copy through the video or whatever, but this gives a very distinct picture of the signs and their relationship to one another. So the first thing I'm going to mention is that when we talk about the signs, we are talking principally about your sun sign. But I should also point out, and I will indicate as we go through this discussion and presentation, that your astrology chart is much more complex than just your sun sign in terms of indicating your potential compatibility with another person. But basically, for this kind of presentation, we're going to stick with the sun sign, and in my future presentations we'll get into deeper levels of looking at compatibility. And for those of you who are interested in finding out more about the kind of readings that a spiritual astrologer does, as myself, you can go to my website, www altazarastrology.com or email me at altazarastrology@gmail.com. At any rate, tonight it's an exciting night because I'm beginning to premiere these presentations on Facebook. And so before we get into talking about the various signs, usually I'm interacting with an audience, and in the future I plan to do webinars in which you can enter the webinar and actually interact with me. I can ask you questions about your chart, your signs, your Venus position, your sun sign, etc. But tonight I have no idea what your level of experience is. There may be people here who have had charts done in the past and are sophisticated somewhat with astrology, and others of you may just be familiar with your sun sign and read the horoscope in the Boulder Weekly. So I'm going to try to give this a balanced point of view, and hopefully you'll be able to learn something from this that adds to your established knowledge. So again, those of you who have arrived now at this point, I'm Altazar. I've been an astrologer for over 25 years. I have studied the ancient principles and interpretation of Vedic astrology, which has grown out of the ancient Vedas and Hindu understandings, and as well the Buddhist perspective on karma and reincarnation. I've been a student back in the 80s of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, the founder of Naropa, who gave me his blessing to become an astrologer, in fact. Also, I have studied Chinese astrology. I lived in San Francisco and I've studied the works of Theodora Lau and her character astrology. I've also studied numerology and Western metaphysics and psychology. Some people believe that I have about a PhD level of understanding of astrology, and to really have a deep understanding, to be an interpreter and an astrologer, it really does take a bachelor's degree or greater. So with that said, I'm going to now just talk about the spiritual basis for the interpretations that I do. We're not going to get too much into that. I'll have other evenings in which I talk about karma and reincarnation and the life purpose that your astrology chart reveals. But just to give you a quick picture here, this is an example of an astrology chart. This happens to be the astrology chart of Richard Burton, the famous actor and once husband of Elizabeth Taylor. But just to give you a quick sense of the complexities of astrology that are based on your birth date, time, and location of birth. Your chart actually consists of your sun sign, and he was a Scorpio, but in fact consists of 72 factors that go into describing who you are and why you're here, including the facets of your relationships, your family, your home, your work, your dynamics in terms of friends and social, cultural, and economic experiences, as well as healing issues. So your chart does consist of the planetary positions of all the planets in the solar system, Mercury all the way through Pluto, and they were in signs the day you were born. Just so happened for this individual, his Mercury was in Scorpio, for example, his Venus was in Capricorn. Now tonight, we're just going to talk about the sun sign. But if you do have a chart, or you want to find out where your Venus position is, or your moon position, or your rising sign, his is Leo, those are also very important ingredients in determining your relationship compatibility. And so that will apply to the principles I'm going to talk about tonight in terms of the basics of relationship astrology. But this is just to give you an example of a chart and the complexities of it, so that when I do a relationship compatibility analysis between two people, we're in that case looking at least 20 to 35 factors to really talk about the nuances of where there is harmony in the relationship and where there's tensions, frustrations, or difficulties, potentially. Well, we're going to go back now to the basics. And I'm going to continue with my simple exposition of the spiritual basis for the interpretation of an astrology chart. So basically, the ancient Vedas and Buddhist perspective, as well as Western metaphysicians like Nostradamus and Aristotle, believe that your astrology chart is essentially your spiritual report card in the school of life. Summarizing, or, well, let's put it this way, that the school of life is about your soul being on a continuous evolutionary journey to discern and discover the spiritual laws and principles that, when inculcated in your attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors, yield greater and greater levels of harmony, happiness, peace of mind, prosperity, and loving relationships in your life. It is said that during our many lifetimes we generate what's known as karma. And karma means cause and effect. But basically, when we look at an astrology chart, we're able to see to what extent your soul, through your lifetimes, has learned and positively become attuned to the spiritual laws and principles that lend towards greater harmony, peace, happiness, and love. And to what extent, either out of ignorance or self-will and ego, your soul has been out of attunement and more clinging to fear and other emotions like lust, and therefore come back into this life with negative karma, challenges or difficulties that you're here to get out of denial about and start working on the spiritual practices and the attitude adjustment, if you will, to elevate your vibration to a higher and more happy and peaceful level. So when it comes to relationships, that can be the most intense place where that learning experiences can occur. And we all have unique karma. So for some people, relationships seem to flow more easily, and for others, it can be the hardest karma that a person has. For one person, they may easily find a career, a job, a profession, and manifest that in the world, and yet be struggling with holding a relationship or keeping a commitment for a long-term sense of connection. And for others, they may be able to find their soulmate, get married, live happily ever after, or at least for a significant period of time, but they may struggle their whole life trying to keep a job or find a meaningful career. So we can't generalize for anyone. There's no judgment. The New Age paradigm is about the unique configuration that each person has in their soul growth to discover and discern what they need to heal, and then follow the unique path of meditation, prayer, or other prescriptions for their spiritual and personal growth. So with that said, we're now going to move into talking about the basics of relationship compatibility astrology. Excuse me a moment to just check the camera and make sure everything is operative and working. Okay, well, I think we're moving along here. So, what I'd like to start out with is talking about the signs. So everyone at least knows their sun sign. And if, at a minimum, to understand your relationship dynamics, you also really need to find out where your Venus position is. So your sun sign, Venus, and then even more helpful, the moon. So let me talk about those factors in a person's chart. So when we look at the chart of Richard Burton, we see that he has the sun in Scorpio, he has Venus in Capricorn, and he has the moon in Virgo. So these are the trifecta, if you will, potential compatibility for a relationship. Your sun sign is basically, from the spiritual astrological point of view, the calling for what you're here to actualize in this life. It's the foundation of what you're here to evolve into. Not necessarily your outer personality and character, or even how you may approach relationships, although it has certain permeating qualities to that. And so when you have sun sign compatibility with another person, such as a Scorpio, is someone who is here to evolve deep sensitivity, emotional awareness, and perceptivity, and an ability to use that sensitivity and perceptivity in a creative way that uplifts, inspires, or transforms people. Now, when we look at the principles, well, we'll just talk a little bit about Venus and the moon. So Venus, and we'll get into talking about all the signs, so I'm just using this as an example at the moment. Venus is how you are here to express your values. Fundamentally, what are your values in life? Even how clear and accurate are you in terms of understanding what your values are in life? When we talk about values, we're talking about everything from the preferences and choices you have for lifestyle. Are you someone who wants to live in the country or the city? Are you someone who is an urban type of person who likes to be active in cultural activities, festivals, theater, and nightlife in the city? Or are you someone who values being at home with family and simple things like going for a walk or going out in nature and cooking together in the kitchen? See, so the extent to which a person really understands and knows themselves and their values, and as well, Venus does describe your inclinations for expressing affection, romantic expression, and your style of sharing your feelings in regards to relationships with others. So that's why it's very important to understand and know your Venus position. For some, your Venus might be in the same sign as your sun sign, so that gives you a little more congruent expression and awareness. I happen to be a Pisces. I also have Venus in Pisces, so that overlaps for me. Then also the moon. So the moon position is said to be the accumulated residual dynamic energy of your personality and character that you carry over from many lifetimes, which is why your moon position may be a more accurate description of your personality than your sun sign. As I've shared, the sun sign is what you're here to, the qualities and attributes you're here to grow and evolve in your soul growth and into, or the Maslowian hierarchy of self-actualization. But the moon is fundamentally how you may tend to share and relate with others. It's the most fundamental reflection of how you approach home and family and your basic needs, feelings, and emotions. It's fundamental to how you may deal with your diet and lifestyle. It's significant in terms of the experience you've had with your mother and to what extent you experienced nurturing and sensitivity and receptivity from her, and based on your karma, and also to what extent you are aware of and pay attention to the details and dynamics of your home environment, where you live, and the lifestyle that would tend to nurture you in your home environment. So understanding this tripod of the sun, Venus, and the moon in relationship or in comparison to another person is very significant when we do a deep evaluation of compatibility between two people. So now, what I'm going to talk about is the basics of relationship compatibility, if I can find that, and talk about the principles, the fundamental principles. So, opposites attract. I have found in my 25 years of experience in evaluating relationship compatibility between two people that the most frequent types of connection that people find themselves in are opposites. And many marriages are opposites. Not always the case, but it depends on what opposites we're talking about. So, to start out with, today we're going to talk about sun sign opposites, but also Venus opposites. So, for example, Richard Burton's opposite, and this is where this graph comes into play to find your opposite. What's the opposite of Richard Burton's sun sign? He's a Scorpio. Well, all you got to do is go 180 degrees, or the opposite of that on this graph, and that's his opposite, Taurus. Okay. So opposites attract. So you can look at your opposite on this map here, or find your opposite and see how much that's applied for you in terms of your sun sign. Now, the other most powerful opposite is your rising sign. Now, if you've never had a professional astrology chart made, you'll need to, and it needs to be based on your birth time. So birth date, time, and location is what determines the accurate layout. The more accurate the birth time, the better. It's on your birth certificate. For some, not all. When we don't have a birth time, we use the midpoint of the day, 12 noon, but we don't have an accurate rising sign in that case. The rising sign, in his case, being born at 10:55 p.m., is Leo. So he's a Leo rising. Now, you'll notice that an astrology chart consists of these planetary positions, and each of the positions, I've talked about the Sun, Venus, and Moon, describes an aspect of your character and your qualities of soul expression. The sign that the planet is in, like Venus in Capricorn, for example, is someone who is cautious about how they approach relationships. Someone who evaluates someone's credentials, the proverbial interviewer when they go out on a date to see if this person meets their socioeconomic and status qualifications for being in a relationship. So the sign tells us how one expresses the attribute of the planet. Then these wedges of the chart tell us where in life that planet may tend to be expressed, the qualities of that planet. These are called houses. His Venus is in the 5th house. The 5th house is associated with the creative arts, theater, drama, children, expressive identity, and as well dynamics related to the media. Is it any coincidence that Richard Burton was a famous actor? Okay, many actors and people in the theatrical arts have the Sun or the Venus in the 5th house. And the 5th house is the house of romance. So when you have a Sun or a Venus in the 5th house, the intensity and the beauty and glory of a romantic relationship is much more highlighted, as we note from the illustrious tabloid following of Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. So, planet, what quality, sign it's in, house it's in, where in life. And then these angles between the planets tell us what kind of karma a person has in regards to that attribute. And we're not going to get into that too much tonight, but some people have been very loving, magnanimous, and generous in their prior lifetimes and have understood the M. Scott Peck road less traveled definition of love, that love is the willingness to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's spiritual growth and life purpose and that of one's partner. So it's not just about who you're sexually attracted to, or who you share recreational or cultural activities with, or who you might want to live with. But ultimately, the higher levels and dimensions of love are associated with the extent to which you personally understand why you're here and have found your life purpose and are animated and enthusiastic about the expression of that life purpose as it heals your karma and evolves your soul. And you understand that's the experience of your partner. And you are mutually willing to encourage each other's soul growth and depth of that soul growth. And that's where the greatest love occurs, as you mutually evolve your vibrations. So, I take little tangents to the side here and then, but now we'll come back to the basic here. Opposites attract. He's a Leo rising. And this house right here is the 7th house, the opposite of the 1st house. That's the house of marriage and long-term partnerships. As much as the 5th house is the house of romance, the 7th house is the house of marriage, long-term partnerships, and represents a powerful compatibility possibility with another person. So, Leo rising, what's the opposite of Leo? Aquarius. You see it on the map here. Leo, you go 180 degrees, exactly opposite Aquarius. So when we do something what's known as an ideal mate profile for an individual like Richard Burton, or maybe you'd like to have one done someday, look on my website and you'll see what an ideal mate profile is. That's where we evaluate these positions and see, for example, that for Richard Burton, a Capricorn could be well highlighted for him in a relationship, and an Aquarius may be well highlighted for him, as well as a Pisces, because you see, in his house of marriage, there's the sign Aquarius, but also a portion of the sign of Pisces is in this relationship area of his chart. And it just so happens that the woman he was married to twice, they were divorced and then remarried, is a Pisces. So that's where we see that opposite associated with his 1st house going to his 7th house of marriage. So we're going to talk a little bit about opposites attract here, coming back to the basics. I shuffle the deck here. Checking the camera just to make sure we're still online, and we are. Okay, so opposites attract. Your sun sign, your Venus, your rising sign. We've seen examples there. So, not knowing who's here or what sign you have, just going to go through some of the basics of the sun sign opposites. Okay, if you're an Aries, fundamentally you are here to evolve your sense of dynamic individual self-confidence, and you're here to be a rather independent kind of person, a self-starter and someone who can take initiative in life, and often are quite oriented towards physicality, sports, recreation, things like that. Like a fair amount of independence. Well, your opposite is a Libra. So a Libra is someone who's here to be very much in a relationship. They're here to be in the relationships that they can really connect with and share many things with. Libras love cultural activities and reading and communication with friends and the aesthetics and beauty in life, whether it be clothing, jewelry, or having a nice car, going out to unique restaurants. And so a Libra can help an Aries get a little away from their somewhat self-absorption and become more sociable. And the Aries can help the Libra not be so accommodating to everybody and everything. Libras are the ultimate tactful diplomats. And so an Aries can help a Libra be more assertive independent. So now we look at the opposites of Scorpio and Taurus. So Tauruses are here to be grounded. It's an earth sign. It's a sign that is about, and I should point out what this map does reveals many things about the signs. For example, the fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, that you add 4 to that number, 1 is 5, you get the next fire sign, and then the next fire sign. Then we have the earth signs, Taurus, 4 plus 4 is Virgo, plus 4 is Capricorn. Then we have Geminis, the air signs, Libra and Aquarius. And then we have Cancers, Scorpios and Pisces, the water signs. And so this is going to lead me into the next discussion before we continue with the oppositions. Same element harmony. So Aries, in terms of your sun sign or Venus position, is going to be naturally compatible with someone who has their sun or Venus in Leo or Sagittarius. Someone who has their sun or Venus in Taurus is going to have a natural compatibility with Virgo or Capricorn. Geminis are going to have a natural compatibility with Libras or Aquariuses. I'm going to talk about why in a moment, but just to give you the layout here. And Cancers will have natural compatibility with the other water signs, Scorpio and Pisces. So back to the opposites, and we'll talk about these elements here. Taurus opposite Scorpio. Tauruses are here to get grounded, they're practical, they may engage in business, they are nature-oriented often, they often are geared towards having beautiful aesthetics in your home or in the property, and into gardening, landscaping, ecology, healing dynamics, healing modalities that have the body-mind type of connection. And Tauruses like and are here to evolve their ability to enjoy the material world, but not be attached to the material world. And so Scorpios, on the other hand, are here to learn how to let go and get more deeply aware of their feelings, emotions, sensuality. And both signs, Taurus and Scorpio, are sensuous signs. The Tauruses tend to be more sensuous in terms of the material things, nice comfortable furniture, going out to nice places to eat, getting their hands dirty in the garden. Scorpio is the sign of sexuality. So you can get an incredible massage from a Scorpio. If not, once you're in an intimate, mutually vulnerable, loving relationship, you can have quite a heightened sexual experience with a Scorpio, or they even love to have that experience. So next we have the opposites, Gemini and Sagittarius. So Geminis are here to evolve their ability to be honest communicators. Like all air signs are here to be the social networkers, the disseminators of information, to evolve and use their conscious mind in various levels that can enhance understanding. And Gemini is the most geared towards using the intellect and the mind for communicating insights and information. You'll have your school teachers, your media people, your writers, journalists, and people involved in transportation and networking, your website designers. So when you are Gemini, that's the focus on very personal, connecting information. That could be more highlighted and insightful in the spiritual realms too, but we're talking about generalizations right now. So the opposite of Gemini is a Sagittarius. So Sagittarians are here as well to be communicators, but they're a fire sign. They're like an Aries in the sense that they're more animated, often energetic, They enjoy travel and multicultural exploration. And more of the Geminis are here to look at and express the details of the forest, while the Sagittarians are here to communicate the... did I say that wrong? Gemini's here to look at the trees. Sagittarians here to look at the bigger vision of the forest. Sagittarians are here to be the ministers of the zodiac in terms of educators, teachers, professors, leading spiritual ventures down to Machu Picchu in terms of travel and multicultural exploration. So one can help them once again get focused, the Geminis, bringing them into more a connection with the local community and bringing their information into more concise and understandable perspectives. And the Sagittarians can offer the Geminis an expansive and more broad vision to evolve their life spiritually. Next, we're looking at the sign Cancer, a water sign. So Cancers are here to evolve their ability to gain emotional awareness and familiarity and understanding of personal life and family dynamics. So they are the water sign that is more outgoing and inclined to be engaged with dynamics that relate to home and people's personal needs. So that can be the hospitality professions, related to real estate, chefs in restaurants, food, nutritional dynamics. It can be psychologists who are inclined to learn more deeply the meaning of their feelings and emotions and connections with others. So, so Cancers are also very much connected with their mother. Cancer is a sign of mothering. And so they are here to evolve the ability to nurture and evoke that parental energy of caretaking. So you'll find them in professions like nursing and the medical profession, or related types of care and concern. So the opposite of Cancer is Capricorn. So Capricorn is the sign of the father. Cancer is the sign of the mother. So Capricorns are the authoritative parental energy. Capricorns are driven by often ambition to make a statement and have a mission in the world, and are here to find a sense of service and responsibility is the big word for Capricorn. And they make good fathers if they are, inclined to balance their life between their career and their home. And the Cancers are here to help them, relax and come home and share the bounty of the success and the achievements that many Capricorns find themselves with their families. And on the other hand, Capricorns can help their Cancer lover be more able to organize and manifest their identity and their professional aspirations. So then we look at Leos. So Leos are here to manifest a sense of dignity, drama, leadership. Our recent President Obama is a Leo. And express that enthusiasm and dynamism in the world in various capacities, from sports and recreation to theater and the cinema to dignified positions of leadership in government or corporations, or especially in sales and things along those lines, public relations. On the other hand, the Aquariuses are here to be more the avant-garde progressives, somewhat the rebels of the zodiac, those who want to take a different path or explore the avant-garde, to look at, go beyond traditional religion and look at metaphysics and alternative perspectives of metaphysics. Astrology is ruled by Aquarius. Aquarians are naturally the sign of the social humanitarians. And so which is not to say a Leo can't be a social humanitarian too, but the Aquarians are much more group-oriented. Aquarius is a sign of friends, just like Geminis, Libras, and Aquariuses are all the signs of social networking, the signs of connecting in community, finding the common bonds that bring people together and help together as a force evolve progressively the consciousness or being of society. So that's why the symbol of Aquarius is the water bearer. Those are supposed to be waves. And so these are the progressive dynamics of an Aquarius. So Aquarius can help bring new friendships, new social meetup groups or other organizations. The Aquarian sign is a sign of the internet, Facebook. So all those things are associated with the new age of Aquarius, which is about bringing people together and helping them better understand their fundamental common connection that transcends prejudice, difference, and or other levels of separation. Well, next we look at the, who haven't we looked at? Virgo and Pisces. I'm a Pisces. So if you've arrived late, we are looking at the principles, the basics of relationship astrology right now. Opposites attract. Many people find that they often are attracting or dating or involved with, at a minimum, the opposite of their sun sign, which we're talking about here, and or the opposite of their Venus position or the opposite of their rising sign position. So it just so happens that the majority of relationships that I've been in my life have been with Virgos. And I'm a Pisces. I also have Venus in Pisces, so that there's double possibilities there. But also, just to give you a little highlight, I have the moon in Capricorn. So earlier we were talking about the three most important planetary symbols in a person's chart being your sun sign, moon, and Venus, and rising sign, 4 if you will. But it really sun, moon, and Venus positions in your chart best indicating the potential compatibility you might have with someone. So Virgo's the other earth sign. Earth signs are here to get grounded, like the Capricorn and the Taurus, here to find the practical skills and abilities that they're here to cultivate so that they can manifest a sense of service in the world that does offer practical results for people, whether it be a clothing store or as many Virgos are healers of one type or another, especially body, mind, structure healers like acupuncturists, naturopaths, physical therapists, massage therapists. Many are Virgos. And then you also have the detail-oriented medical people like orthopedic surgeons or people who, or dentists. So Virgo is a sign of detail orientation, the ability to cultivate using one's intellect and detail awareness to accumulate information that can then be channeled into a professional and or practical service. So the opposite of that is Pisces. Well, Pisces, it's not to say that Pisces don't have that kind of service orientation as well, but Pisces is much more ethereal. Pisces is kind of like, correlates with the similarity to the Sagittarian, much more looking at the greater vision, the forest, while the Virgo is the accountant looking at the trees and making the detail appraisal. So the Virgo helps the Pisces get grounded and focused. One woman I was involved with was in fact a bank examiner, and she certainly straightened out my checkbook. On the other hand, I taught her how to dance. So the Pisces love the arts, they love the music, the creative, ethereal things that help us transcend the world. And Pisces who have embraced the deeper spiritual paths and disciplines that Pisces really needs to do as you know, the watchwords of Pisces are serve or suffer. Two fish tied together, one floating downstream, the other upstream. Downstream is just going with the emotions and currents of culture and friends and external influences and not having a sense of boundaries or purpose or direction. Upstream is embracing spiritual practices that then can offer the soul growth insights that give a Pisces the ability to be the universalist, compassionate service for humanity. So many Pisces are doctors, nurses, priests, gurus. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche was a Pisces. And as well, Pisces are actors, musicians, entertainers, and or bookstore owners. So it could be a range of things, but generally Pisces like quiet and more retreatant-oriented lifestyle. And they are there to lighten up, help the Virgos let go of the detail, rigid, analytical, nitpicking, that's the low side, dynamics and let go and relax in life. So now we're going to just talk a little bit more about these basics of relationship astrology. Now, same element harmony I implied before, that as much as opposites attract, and there can be real powerful soul growth in regards to being with your opposite. Sometimes some people, based on the configuration of their chart, are not here to be in that type of relationship and are here to be in a more easily flowing complementary connection. So in that sense, for example, in same element harmony, we look at the compatibility between Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. We note that Richard Burton is sun sign Scorpio, and Elizabeth Taylor, sun sign Pisces. So here we see the principle of same element harmony. Same element, you go to find the water sign, there it is, add 4 and 8 is 12, Pisces. Scorpio and Pisces, water signs, same element harmony. Or they could have friends who are Cancers. So you will find that when two people are the same element, in water signs, for example, they're both going to tend to be deep-feeling people, very sensitive emotionally, and have a deep need to process their feelings when they're hurt or vulnerable, or need to share mutual spiritual practices to clear their head. Next, let's go through these elements. Aries. So Aries, Leos, and Sagittarius is the fire trinity. So mutual fire signs will tend to enjoy each other because they're generally pretty confident, animated people, pretty energetic, unless they have other mitigating factors. And remember, a chart consists of 72 elements with 35 primary elements. So once again, someone could be in Aries, which fundamentally is about evolving initiative, drive, strength, independence, self-reliance. But they might have their moon in Pisces, they might have their Venus in Taurus, they might be the most lethargic person on earth. So, once again, these are somewhat generalizations, and to do a real compatibility perspective, you need to consult a professional to look at these multiple factors to see how they interplay with your partner or prospective partner. At any rate, the fire trinity generally tend to be people who are energetic, active, often tend to enjoy travel, sports, recreation, dancing, animated activities, and have somewhat of a dramatized style of celebrating their partner and the connection with their partner. Now we're going to take a deep a brief break, not a deep break, but a brief one just to make sure we're still online. And we are. So welcome. Who can I see here is here? I can't. So we'll just welcome who's ever here. Okay. So the Earth Trinity, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Earth sign people, as I've shared, are here to evolve their skills, talents, and abilities in a way that's grounded, that yields them professional success, material success, enjoyment of the sensual material possessions, property, and world. Not necessarily in an overly attached way, although some certainly can, but just to mutually enjoy the creature comforts of life and mutually be supportive of each other in their business, professional activities, and or organization of their finances and material resources. And so that's the Earth Trinity. Now we're going to move on to the Air Trinity. And Gemini's, Libras, and Aquariuses. I've already shared the social networking quality, the intellectual communicative quality. So when two people have a theme of being a Gemini and a Libra, Gemini and Aquarius, they can talk for hours about politics, New Age spirituality, personal growth, the day-to-day experiences on their job, the people they know, the groups they're a part of, and the social networks they're involved with, etc., etc. The book they're writing, the organization that they're working with to enlighten people about fracking in Boulder County, or whatever. So the Air Trinity: communicative, sociability, friends, and networking. And then we have the Water Trinity, which I've already talked about. So now we're going to move on to the next factor, complementary elements. So it's quite obvious when you look at the elements. We have water, earth, air, and fire. So to discern your complement, you go 2 signs over from your fundamental sun, or let's say Venus position. So let's say I have the sun or Venus in Aries. The complementary elements, since I'm a fire sign, is what? An air sign. Air fuels fire, nurtures fire. So 2 signs over, Gemini or Aquarius. Those are the Aries complementary signs. So to a certain extent, that can be a little more entertaining as far as a relationship, not to mention that the opposite sign of Aries is also its complement, being an air sign. But not as the actual complements, that is 2 signs over either way, is not going to be as dramatic or as intense as one's opposite. So it'll be a little more dramatic and interesting than your same element, Leo or Sagittarian. But because the Gemini is more of that communicative, or the Aquarius has that more scientific, progressive group orientation than an Aries might have. So there is some growth, more growth possibilities there when there are vive la différence, as the French say. So we'll go through them. Taurus, the complements will be Cancer and Pisces. So why is that? Because water nurtures earth. Earth offers stability for water. The water signs help the earth signs lighten up, relax, become more fluid and emotionally available. Now we have the air signs to fire signs. So as much as we saw the fire sign to the air, now we have Gemini's complement to Leo and Aries, or the Libra complement to Leo and Sagittarius, or the Aquarius complement Sagittarius to Aries. So then we have the Leo, the fire sign again. So I believe you should get the picture here. Your complement is 2 signs over, and it's going to be, if you're water, it'll be earth. If it's earth, it's water. If you're air, it's fire. If it's fire, you're air. Or if you're fire, it's air. So we've got to move on because we're running out of time here. So, and again, if you have questions or would like to explore this more deeply, you're welcome to contact me by phone or email, altazarastrology@gmail.com, and mention you were attending this this presentation, and I will give you a free sample reading. So I look forward to hearing from you. Or you can just connect through my website, altazarastrology.com. Well, lastly, and what can be the most interesting, is the tension growth elements. So, the tension growth elements are adding 3 to your position on the map. Aries, 1 plus 3 is 4. Or subtracting 3. So 1, 2, 3. You go back 3. Okay? So the 2 most difficult signs, or the most challenging signs for an Aries, are Cancers and Capricorns. Well, why is that? Well, because Aries is what we call a cardinal sign. It's a sign about taking initiative, being outgoing, and doing so in a somewhat spontaneous and many times risky and impulsive way. Cancer and Capricorn are the signs of reserve and caution. So energetically, the Aries might tend to be more risk-oriented, more, let's just go travel to Florida. And the Capricorn, well, wait a minute, let's sit down and look at our budget, and when do you get off from work, or when do you go back to work? Much more subdued, reserved, and cautious. Taurus, 3 signs over, Leo. Aquarius is what we call the fixed quadruplicity. So fixed signs tend to be rather determined or even stubborn. And so Taurus may want to just settle down into a nice, quiet or suburban area, and Leo and Aquarius may want to be much more actively out there in the city and more connecting socially and busy with communicative and social cultural dynamics. And Taurus just wants to kick back and eat and read a book. So these are very simplistic analysis, but I'm just giving you the basics on them here. So we look at Geminis, the 2 most challenging for Geminis. You go 1, 2, 3 over, 3 the other way, the Virgo Pisces axis. So I've borne this out in 25 years of experience that where I tend to have challenges, and that's not a prejudice, but I have some challenges with Geminis, as they tend to be much more cerebral, intellectual, and I tend to be much more emotional and sensitive. And so as they're talking away, giving me all sorts of information or talking about their self and everything they're doing, I'm hoping they'll take a breath and just be for a moment and just feel. And that's just my point of view. That's not the right or wrong. It's just different energetics. So we move on to Cancers, and 2 most difficult here for Cancers are Libras and Aries. So we're running out of time. You get the picture here that the tension growth does not preclude you being involved. There are many happily married couples and couples I've worked with over the years whose sun signs are in the tension growth configuration. But what tends to be more of a problem is if the Venus and Moon positions tend to be in the tension growth positions. So for example, let's say someone has Venus in Cancer and the other person has Venus in Libra, Aries. That implies a fundamental difference in values for lifestyle, fundamental difference in the expression, the affectional expression that two people have. So let's say two people have moon positions in the tension growth dynamic, or in the opposite dynamic. So let's say we have a moon in Taurus, and we have someone who has a moon in Aquarius. I've implied this before. So the moon in Taurus person is going to tend to like the material comforts, a slower lifestyle, maybe out in the country or out in nature. The moon in Aquarius may be someone who wants to live in the city and be a community activist and part of a collective family housing project. So that could present a rather stiff stumbling block for whether those two people can consummate a long-term connection. So tension growth dynamics, again, may be rather challenging for being in the positions for the Venus and the Moon, or Venus, Moon combinations. So I'm going to close this presentation by just showing you when we do a relationship comparison compatibility for two people such as Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, where we look at their charts and compare their positions to come up with an appraisal of their compatibility. This is what a professional astrologer does, or some call it a synastry analysis, but basically we take a look at all the positions in the chart and compare them, and then divide them by harmony versus tension growth. And it's not a function of the quantity of tension growth versus the quantity of harmony, but it's a function of the quality of each of these connections that these two people have. See, these people have a Venus to Neptune connection, Venus to Neptune. That's a very loving possibility. But on the other hand, they also have a Mercury square Mercury and a Mercury square Mars, which can be one of the most difficult communicative, day-to-day communicative scheduling dynamics that involve two people who can easily slip into arguing vociferously. So this is what a real compatibility analysis is. And then we also look at a synthesis of the two people's charts into one chart. So this is a chart of the relationship between Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, called a composite chart. And that gives us a quick picture and summary. This is constructed by taking the midpoint of every position in each of their charts and constructing one chart based on that. And that gives us a deep overview and sensibility about the prospects for this relationship. So this completes my presentation on relationship compatibility. Thank you all for being here. I welcome you to visit my website at www.altazarastrology.com, and I'll be doing future presentations. The next one for relationships will be covering Chinese astrology. In other words, your Chinese year of birth. For example, being born in the year of the rooster versus someone who's born in the year of the rabbit. And I've found over many years of experience that a person's Chinese year of birth can be a more powerful summary of their potential compatibility with another person. So I'll announce that presentation on the Chinese years and relationship compatibility. Other presentations coming up will be on your life purpose and karma as it relates to spiritual astrology. Also one on the father wound, how your chart can reveal issues with your father, and also on the mother wound and the karma you may have associated with why you chose certain parents. Also child and parent astrology, and we'll be looking at astromap and locality astrology. All these are on my website. I look forward to hearing from you if you have questions and or attend one of these future presentations. Good night.